Hey, John, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks as always, man. It's been a long road making these films, and you've been along for just about the whole ride.
I think every one of them. Let's start with just the overall overview question. What sparked your interest into creating a multi-season series about David?
Um, you know, this is the everybody asks, so why now with David? I'm like, because I someone finally let me make the story. I've wanted to tell the story since I was 16 years old. I went to Israel with my dad with my first camera that he bought. It literally came in a box the day before we left. So I went to Israel with a camera I had no idea how to use to film a little documentary called In the Steps of Jesus. And we stayed, it was just the two of us. We stayed on a kibbutz on the Sea of Galilee, we went all over Israel. And then we stayed in a place called Christ Church in the old city of Jerusalem. So at night, we're walking around the old city of Jerusalem. And that was the first time I had left the U.S. And you don't realize that everything in America is fairly new. It's like an IKEA store compared to, a place like Israel, And I was just so awestruck by the thousands of years of history, and the stories. And it was like the Bible just came to life. I still have a rock that I got there on the bank of the Sea of Galilee. But one of the things we did is we went to King David's tomb, and the idea that this person's he's a songwriter and his music, we still sing it today, 3,000 years later. That's
Mhm.
incredible. That he's one of the most famous kings of all time. That his city, Jerusalem, is 1 square mile. Probably the most influential square mile on earth. And yet and his story endures, and the idea that the truth of his story has indeed become legend, because I think a legend embodies a bigger concept, is the idea. And the idea of David and Goliath, even people that have no idea what the story is, those three words are synonymous with the underdog, with overcoming all odds, with finding and following your destiny and in your purpose. And so just talk about an epic life lived. And so it was the first movie script I ever wrote, way before the other films. I need to go back and read that script. I haven't read it in quite some time. I don't know if it was any good, but uh, but it was basically the time frame of what is the first couple 2 3 seasons, God willing, of House of David, and so I think every film, I just needed the time to prepare, to learn how to tell a story of this magnitude. I mean, this
Let,
isn't.
let me ask you a follow-up question, John. Are you saying this was your very first idea, David,
I mean,
or
it
what?
was the first script I wrote for sure. Yeah, and
Wow,
and I
wow.
mean, look, as a Christian kid, this is your dream. What Christian kid that has ever
Yeah.
touched the camera does not want to make David and Goliath? I mean, it really is. For many years, I would joke around with filmmakers. I mean, there were 8 to 10 David projects, and we all wondered, who would get to do it, and it just really is the ultimate story to tell. And I think the reason there's not, in my opinion, sort of a defining movie is because the story is just too big. There's just
Mm.
the story encompasses, it's an odyssey, it's an epic, and so I think this is the way to tell the story. I think it has to be a multi-season series, and a place like Prime Video Global is like the perfect partner to really get it to the world and get it done at the scale that the story deserves.
I know, of course, the Bible is your primary text, but did you also rely on other Jewish texts such as the Midrash and the Talmud? I'm just curious
We
if
had
those were.
so many, just kind of like we had Christian theologians, we had Jewish consultants, we consulted rabbinic tradition, we scoured, read books on David, pretty much everything in mass media on David. The Bible is the primary source, obviously. And what I love about David is that you can really get into his heart and mind because of the Psalms. You know, and there's never been a dramatization that really tells you the life he was living while he wrote those Psalms. And so, but we did as much research as we could, and it was fascinating people. Rabbi Jason with Chosen contributed.
Okay.
There was there's a woman by the name of Jen who's a Orthodox Jewish expert, and she's amazing. And then we just had a great team of people. Greg Laurie's always right beside me in whatever I do, and so it was very organic. And it was nice because I've been sort of slowly researching this and building towards this for years and years and years and years. And so it was kind of a slow process while making the other films. And I think I needed to make the other films. You know, that's one of the lessons I learned is I think we discount that if you want to do something big, you know, God gives us long seasons of preparation, and that's just as important as when you actually go do something. So I needed the time.
Dallas Jenkins, of course, popularized this concept of a biblical TV series. Did you have any contact with him in terms of navigating the, I guess the walls between biblical accuracy and creative license? Did you guys talk?
Oh yeah, you know, we've had a multi-year friendship. We did Best Christmas Pageant Ever together, and you know, and I started talking to him very early. We announced, you know, the idea of doing biblical films as he was doing The Chosen, and then COVID happened, and then we went and did American Underdog and Jesus Revolution, and we got to know each other right as The Chosen came out, and we've just become great friends. I love him. And you know, he's a advisor to the Wonder Project, and we talk probably every other day. And now we're talking even more because now that the trailer's out and there's a conversation, it's so fascinating. I've never had a reaction to a trailer like this before, and so I talk to him often, but I pick his brain all the time. And I'm grateful that I'm in the wake of The Chosen. The Chosen really did pave the way to make House of David possible.
Of course, Dallas often says these are that he chooses events in the Gospels and then picks plausible storylines to go
That's
between
right.
those events. Is that kind of your?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I think you want to honor the theme. I think I want the audience to know that it is truly a miracle, but also a byproduct of the success of The Chosen and of movies like Jesus Revolution, that you know believers are in total creative control of this Prime Video global release. That's incredible, and I'm stewarding it to the best of my ability. And you know, every decision we make is out of love and reverence for the Bible itself. And I've never read the Psalms this much. And what you have, if we only went with what the Bible covered in like the first season of House of David, I think it's 3 chapters, you know, the whole series would be 25 minutes. You know, that what's there are the events. And so you do have to create plausible storylines and relationships that justify those events. And you do that with great care and consideration. And but what I remind people is this is not the source, you know. This is not scripture. This is a TV show. And it is a love letter to the Bible. It is an homage, and it's pushing people towards the Bible itself. But the Bible is what's sacred. And my hope is that people love the series, they're entertained by it, they can watch it together, and they then open up their Bible because I can't think of a more relatable place to. I mean, if you haven't opened up a Bible ever or in a long time, open it up to the Gospel of John. After you do that, open up the Psalms. Like if you want to relate to words of someone who's going through or whatever it is you're going through, the Psalms of David are so incredibly authentic and honest and meaningful and life-changing and inspirational to me. And that's my hope. I hope people watch the series, and if there's a next step, open YouVersion or download it and give it a read. It's a good book.
You have two audiences here. You have a Christian audience, a Jewish audience, a religious audience. You have a religious audience, then you have the non-religious audience. So address both of those audiences for the moment. What do you think those two audiences will take away from this?
You know what I love about it is that David is, you know, if he's revered in just about every faith. You know, but if you're a Christian, if you're Jewish, you know, of course you're going to have a different experience with this, hopefully, based off how devout you are. This is a character that we love. But what I love about it, though, is David is really driven by those same hero's journey archetypes that drive Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. So what I love about the story is if you know nothing about the Bible, but you like Star Wars. I remember when I went to finally, I saw Harry Potter, it was Half-Blood Prince, I think. I hadn't seen any of the movies. My kids were a little young. I was like, fine. I'll go, what is this global phenomenon? And I went and I'm like, I don't know what this magic school is. I don't know what these wands are. I don't know what they're, but I know I'm crying because this you know, Dumbledore guy is obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi and he's dying, and that glasses kid is obviously Luke Skywalker. Like the archetypes were clear. And so I was able to find my footing in a story that I was unfamiliar with. And that is what I think the opportunity of David is for a mass audience, especially as if we can make, as a community of faith, if we can make the show really popular. People that would watch something like Game of Thrones would end up watching this series, and you don't have to know anything about the Bible to understand this hero's journey. This is a classic hero's journey, destiny story, and that is the basis of many, many, many films and television series. And so that is one of the advantages of David. Is I think it's a great entry point for people that don't know anything about the Bible.
But before we close here, I do want to say I was really inspired of the way that you guys portrayed David. I've only watched most of the first season. I'm sure there's more to his character in the next few seasons, but he's just incredibly devoted to God. And it's like every time Saul is trying to walk away from God, David is the one
Yeah.
who is honoring God in this story. Will the same character play David in future seasons?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, if we have the good fortune of doing future seasons and telling David's whole life, eventually the character will have to get older, but not for a few seasons. And Michael is just a one in a million. He he has the depth of soul that I was looking for in the character. He's an incredible musician. He's incredibly athletic, but his conviction shines through in much of I've had the privilege of directing both of them, him, and I got to direct Jonathan Rumi in Jesus Revolution, and they really do have that same fabric. They have that same inner belief and conviction and faith. And Michael is just this amazing Christian kid in his first role, and he owns the screen. And I could not be more proud of a friend and of a young person in the industry. And I can't wait for the world to meet him. He really delivers with this role, and this is his first role. It's definitely the first of many, but he will, God willing, if we get the ability to tell multiple seasons, he'll play many of those seasons before the character ages up.
Jon, thanks so much.
As always, man. Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed the series.